I think it might be a certain characteristic of this life to woven the most significant stories from the tears and sweats of our darkest of moments. It was back in 2017, after some deeply challenging years, that I found myself almost completely lost from myself and the purpose of my life. I felt then an unexplainable sense of urgency, something in me telling me that there is little time left, and if I don't do something, I might not be able to recover from the state that I was in, and something important will be missed. It was actually the intense pain brought by those challenging years that acted as a catalyst for the journey that followed, a journey that would later become known to me as the path back to my true self, naturality, and life. I decided to isolate myself from the world, and with the little resources available, I managed to get an old house on a hill in Romania. I started living there by myself, devoting my time primarily to inner study and self-observation. I started going within myself, as deep as I could, investigate, observe, and be with myself, until I would be able, or not, to find the truth of my very existence. Somewhere at the beginning of this journey, I found Chiron Last's YouTube channel. The Golden Web video popped out one day on my YouTube recommendation list. And here was an unprecedented material, uncovering some of the truer aspects of our existence, hidden in the very languages and words we commonly use.
Garden goes back to the Indo-European languages, starting with the words ger and gerd, meaning to grasp and to enclose, and the term gordo, for an enclosed land, yard, or garden. This went into the Avestan and Old Persian languages as zar, meaning to harm, and ahzarah, for oppressed. The Greek language was given these terms, and from them got the word orus, meaning an enclosed dancing group, yet also the words ronos and chronos, for that which encloses all things, or time. When we buy and sell things, we are traders of humanity because we are traders. A trader is a trader because one person's gain is automatically another's loss. Can we not all see that this is a system based upon hatred? The more that one gains, the more that another loses. When you see someone with $1 billion, how many others literally have nothing because of that one person? An uncountable number. Yet this is what mankind applauds and is mentally conditioned to love and favor. Did these people who are stock market and business traders work 1 billion times harder than everyone else? Take note that it's also called a stock market because we are the live stock that are being sold on it by the traders. Yes, when something is sold, it is sold because we are literally selling our souls when we treat our fellow brothers and sisters of humanity like enemies in the game and competition of the religious death war known as commerce.
I felt almost staggered, not only by the sheer brilliance of the concepts presented, but also by the intelligence that was able to put such material together. Truly one-of-a-kind work. Through the years, Chiron Last's material remained for me as one of the few sources of deep and trusted knowledge that acted like a companion and a fountain of sanity for me on this journey. When I found the video on neutrality, I was already deep down into this practice. And again, I could hardly believe the sheer brilliance I found in that video, both in the information presented and in the lyricism of the exposition.
What is it to be neutral? Is it not perhaps like the anagram of the word states, to be natural? Some might say, that's not how natural is spelled. Despite this petty semantic argument, isn't it more intriguing to see, however, that the word nature is a part of this rearrangement? Everyone caught in the duality cycle of emotion can never touch neutrality because they let their emotions control them instead of learning how to control oneself. How easy it is for the many to be manipulated by another through a few choice words, seen by the ego sense as a compliment or an insult. Let it be known that in the wisdom of neutrality, to accept an external compliment is to also accept the insults. Every single time. As Zhuangzi has said, when an archer is shooting for nothing, he has all his skill. If he shoots for a brass buckle, he is already nervous. If he shoots for a prize of gold, he goes blind, or sees two targets. He is out of his mind. His skill has not changed, but the prize divides him. He cares. He thinks more of winning than of shooting, and the need to win drains him of power.
I consider to this day this video to be one of the most outstanding materials ever done on this subject. I wondered, though, how many people truly got the depths of Chiron's work, as to recognize the brilliance in some of these materials implied for one to have traveled some depths and lengths within oneself, penetrating layers which usually remain closed for our mundane human mind. One can truly recognize the brilliance of a master only when one takes up the journey of apprentice. Only then, when one is faced with all the intricacies and depths of a specific art, can one truly begin comprehending the genius of a master at that art. It has been asked by many how legitimate Chiron Last's message or its persona was, how true the information presented, how genuine and valid its intentions, many finding its later messages and information somewhat contradictory and controversial. And while I struggled with this dilemma myself, I think now my soul found its resolution. The answer was already there, somewhere deep within me. All I needed was time and courage to go within myself and find out what was already obvious. I think many of us live our lives conducted by forces that remain almost forever out of our control. We usually believe we are the ones in charge of our life. We believe we are the ones that think, that feel, that have inspirations, dreams, and visions. We believe we are the ones that act and take decisions. While, is this really so? Who really knows why a certain thought just popped into our head? And now that thought appears so real, valid, genuine, and compulsive. Do we create our own thoughts? Or are we just benign witnesses of them taking place within us? My last 7 years of deep self-observation led me to the evidence that my life is not my own. Much of what I considered myself to be was a conundrum of bodily sensations, thoughts, emotions, desires, preferences, ideologies, and visions that none of them were directly fabricated by me. They were just taking place within me, similar to weather phenomena taking place on the sky. All our entire life seems more like a theater play, a cosmic show orchestrated by forces that usually remain outside of our control. And so, in this cosmic theater of life, everything appears and disappears like a hypnotic dance of shadows on a wall. All our bodily sensations, our thoughts, imaginations, dreams, visions, desires, preferences, and ideologies all appear and disappear, like being casted by an unknown fire on the wall of our existence. Many of us look at these shadows and become fully captivated by them. Many of us believe ourselves to be one of these dancing shadows. Others, the ones that through personal effort have gained a deeper level of self-awareness, found the shadows to be mere illusions, and now perhaps they only stare bluntly at the world. But I am asking myself this: if we are already here, in this cosmic theater of life, could there be a higher purpose or reason for this? Some form of legitimacy, some key, something to discover or understand out of all this phantasmic existence. Maybe I am just saying, maybe, even though the shadows are just shadows, there might be a meaning to the story they are trying to depict. And what do we do when all of a sudden our heart starts pumping up at the hearing of some glimmering words or at the sight of some image, and in that moment our entire being starts vibrating with an undescribable force? Should we ignore that sudden force? Should we pass it by as some other emotion? Or should we perhaps give it our attention, look closely into it and allow it to guide us? If everything is already illusion, and all is nothing but a mere dance of shadows on a wall, why not pursue the illusions that are unexplainably pumping our heart with blood and trembling us to our very core? How sure are we that it isn't this very type of choice the actual reason for our entire existence? Instead of disputing if Chiron's message was true or false, or if his intentions were right or wrong, let us look deeper within ourselves and see how its very message made so many of our hearts pump back with life, with drive, with passion, and with meaning. Even the ones that disputed and refuted its message, they were doing so with an unprecedented passion and drive. When has this world ever offered such chances? Such encounters only happen sparingly, in some brilliant work of some music composer, in some piece of art that we can never forget, in some epic sunset, or some unforgettable moment with a loved one. But such moments are rare, and this is how I see Chiron's work. A rare piece of art, an art for the heart. That was given to us to make us care once again, to bring back the ability to feel and sense to our long desensitized hearts, to stand again for something, anything, to make us wonder, to make us cry, to make us shout at him or perhaps hate him, but in any case, to make us feel them thing, to resuscitate our heart.
This is life. Life is this unknown and overwhelming immensity, and it needs to be asked, how have we met life? In every single moment, what is my response to this tremendous thing called life?
At the end of this life, we might contemplate upon our life. And some of us, we might see this tiny flame or spark that has always burned within us. But we might also see how we were too afraid to give it breath, constantly falling prey to doubt, to contradiction, to hopelessness and hesitation. Instead, leaning back towards the same trodden paths of fear and conformity. Watching movies, drinking beer, discussing the latest political debates, and only sometimes looking at the stars and feeling the rush of blood pumping to a life unlived. But at the same time, we might find ourselves at the end of the same life, looking back and saying, it was worth it. I've believed. I've gone with the courage of a madman and pursued what beat the loudest in my heart. It was crazy. It was unimaginable. It was dangerous and beautiful. I felt lost. I found myself. And if for nothing else, I've felt alive. I have seen things few have ever seen, both crawling through the depths of hell and riding through the skies of heaven. I was there with all my being, traveling a mystical path that only few have ever charted. I met with others on this journey. We've joined hands in a kinship of love. I existed, I lived, I loved. I gave my all. Isn't such a life much more worthy of living than a dull one filled with fear, skepticism, or doubt?
When we meet life with intention, it becomes intense. And this becomes the roadmap to freedom. To live deliberately. All in. For too long, everyone has been convinced that they should be ashamed to be alive, truly alive. That you are a sinner on the religious side, or that your life is a nihilistic blip in the grand schematic of the cosmos on the scientific side. Both sides have trained the spirit out of the individual and left us lonely, in despair, feeling lost and incomplete. How did we sing our songs, paint our canvases, visit our friends, or even clean our homes? Did I wait to sing that song with everything I had, only when there was an audience to potentially give me applause? Or did I sing my songs every single day, knowing that I always sang for all of creation, and it heard me every time? Spirit always gives everything it has to life. It is all in. Total vulnerability. Every moment is the opportunity to live life this way, and every action is the opportunity to live deliberately. Every moment is our response to life, and thus our response to death.
Sometimes we must give all that we are to a cause which is greater than ourselves, giving ourselves entirely to that cause with full passion, life, and breath. And the fruits of such choice might only begin to ripen long after we have planted and watered its seeds with our full commitment and dedication? Why not then accept a call for adventure, a call towards a mystical life filled with purpose and with meaning, when the opportunity is so rarely given?
Truth, love, freedom. How do we, as individuals, find out what truth is, what freedom is, what love is? Freedom is never a choice. It is innate. It is an internal compass that guides one through storms of persecution, hardship, and cruelty. A free spirit does not have to be convinced that they are free. They do not need a government or a corporation to tell them that they are free. Either one is free or they are not. The individual that is truly free does not require permission to create a better world. The individual that is truly free recognizes when there is a constant and consistent pattern of fear and tactics of mental manipulation used by governments, self-appointed authorities, and even their fellow man. The free individual is not silently compliant. The free individual is free to create a better world with others that are free. The free individual is free to return to the source of everything. The free individual is free.
This is how Chiron Last's message felt to me. It was a call to a life that our hearts know it's possible. A life full of courage, of freedom, and of meaning. And I think we should all find such passion in our life. If not in Chiron Last's message, then in anything else that comes in our life and is able to ignite it.
The mind is endlessly chattering, for it wants to be the only thing that is listened to and followed. There is, however, a voice far deeper that calls out within each of us. It is far more subtle and less obvious. That deeper voice can only be heard in the silence. How it has almost altogether been forgotten to be creative for the very sake of creativity itself. Instead, always awaiting the opinions and judgments of others who are also themselves chasing after the same deified idols of glory, fame, riches, and even acknowledgement. The heart is already completion. All it sees is abundance and life, and lacks for nothing, as everything is created endlessly from the unknown, which it is the master of. What a world humanity could create if it recognized this. What a universe and multiverse humanity could create if it recognized this. If only humanity could recognize this. Again.
But a call is only as good as the answer given to it. A letter only remains a paper unless we decide to open it and read it. A road only remains a potential destination unless we decide to walk on it and see where it leads.
As was already stated, a path can be indicated, but it will never be stated that anyone should walk it. Salvation is a personal journey,
and every life lived is simply an opportunity for an opportunity. The narrow gate is very slim indeed, and very few ever find its pathless entry. Fewer still walk through.
Chiron's message has been a call to a one-of-a-kind type of journey. It is up to us now to walk that path and see where it leads. So, are we going to respond to it? Are we going to allow the fire in our hearts to guide us? Are we going to say yes when life starts knocking at our door? My choice has already been made. And in the end, let it be this fire and nothing and no one else that acts as the judge for our life well lived. It's time to burn.